What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Business of Strength podcast. In this episode, Dan and I are going to interview our good friend and fitness superstar, Jane Erbacher. Less than 3 years ago, Jane was working in the gym training clients and running the day-to-day business. To her own admission, her fitness and personal life were taking a backseat to her clients. She was unhappy and unmotivated. Fast forward to 2017, and she has just wrapped up a world tour with her hugely successful Project Ski and Project Row and has gone completely in a different direction. She now has her eyes set on building her own lifestyle and fitness brand. You're going to love this episode as Jane is one of the most uplifting and positive people I've ever met in the fitness industry and has helped thousands of people achieve their optimum level of fitness and lifestyle. Check it out. Here we go.
Welcome to the Business of Strength, powered by Varsity House Gym, the podcast for strength entrepreneurs.
All right, everyone, we are on live with our good friend Jane Erbacher. Jane, just less than a few years ago, she was still on the gym floor training clients and running her day-to-day fitness business. And now, fast forward to 2017, she's off the gym floor and just kind of wrapped up a huge world tour with her successful Project Ski, Project Row seminar series, and has her eyes set on building her lifestyle brand, and she's just got a ton of stuff going on. I really can't even keep up because every time I see Jane, she's in a new city, in a new country, and all over the world. So if you're looking to follow somebody in the fitness industry who just literally bleeds positivity, and everywhere she goes, it's like flowers sprout up underneath her feet, for lack of a better term. I've never met anybody who didn't love her, who didn't love her positivity and vibe as much as we do. So we love Jane a ton, and she's been out here to Varsity House a bunch of times, and in my eyes is absolutely one of the bright shining stars in the fitness industry who, if you don't know, hopefully in the next couple of months, in the next year or so, you will know. And I see Jane absolutely blowing up in the next few years, and she's done a great job of just promoting herself and helping a ton of people in the process. So welcome, Jane. Thanks so much for being here, and we are crazy excited to have you on with us this time.
Thank you so much. That was like the best, most uplifting way anybody could ever have spoken about me. I can't believe flowers sprout up from under my feet. I'm going to make sure I call my dad straight away, and I'm going to be like, Dad, guess what?
We could just end the podcast there. That's it. It doesn't get any better.
You need to make Jane a Instagram post with actually her with flowers underneath her feet.
That's going to be the artwork for this podcast.
Right, exactly.
No doubt.
That'd be actually pretty cool.
No doubt. Making the grass greener for everyone around her.
Honestly, Jane, too, the reason why we wanted you on the show is, Joe and I were talking in our meeting wrap-up. It's like, what the heck is Jane up to? We need to get her on the show. And we, I reached out Tuesday night, and then bang, here we are Friday interviewing you because we want to know what's been up.
Yeah,
I know.
I consider Jane a personal friend, and I don't even know what the hell's going on because she's got so much going on, so we wanted to hear it, from your mouth, and I would love you to talk a little bit for the people that don't know Jane, and just kind of what the last couple of years have been like. When I met Jane, she was just starting, her Jim Jones certification and going through the process of coming out to Utah and going through the mentorship process out there. And you were definitely, obviously, fit and into fitness, but nothing like you are now, and nothing where your lifestyle has really taken a 180. So can you talk a little bit about what the big change for you was, and what some of the, the aha moments were over the last couple of years that led you to this point now?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I definitely think of you guys as absolutely friends, but I am a huge fan of you both as well, and everything that you've built. And I just, I have learned so much from both of you, and I think that both of you end up being in pretty pivotal moments of my life of that whole aha kind of feeling. So you'll definitely both pop up in this story. But I guess a really interesting part of my story is I really thought I started a gym in 2013, and I've been working as a personal trainer, aerobics instructor, any kind of fitness job I could get my hands on. I'd been doing for about 10 years. And then my best friend and I decided to open a functional fitness gym in Melbourne. And I opened that gym, and I remember standing there on the floor one day and thinking, this is it. Like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I looked around and I loved what I'd built there. I loved that people came in every single day and left feeling amazing. And I really took it seriously that I had power over that hour of their day. And I know that both of you have spoken a lot about that, and in your business model, how it is the best hour of people's lives when they come in and they train with you. And I really took that seriously. And fast forward 2 years and just chasing my tail and just working like an absolute dog in that gym just absolutely burnt me out. And showing up every day 5:30, leaving every night 8:30, and just never, and I quote you all the time, Joe, I never worked on the business. I never worked on myself. I always just got caught up working in it, and like absolutely burnt myself out, put on weight. I was looking like super puffy. I often think about how I looked. I looked puffy, like it's like my face and my butt and my belly were like hanging on to all the stress and like lack of sleep. And It was funny because I know for a good 6 months I knew that I had to change what I was doing, and I just really didn't know how. Like I knew how to be a great trainer. I didn't know how to run a good business. I was doing the best that I could, but I just didn't know how to do it, and I didn't have the tools to do it. And so had a bit of a falling out with my business partner because we both wanted to take the business in a really different direction. I was really keen on us learning a lot from people who were doing it well, and she was just kind of keen on continuing to do what we were doing. And I really felt like I was banging my head against a wall, and it was like Groundhog Day every day. And so I decided to leave the business, and she brought me out. And the day that I walked out of the gym, I felt really angry because I felt like I'd built up this whole world and I had to leave it behind because I didn't think that there was any option. And so that was the day I jumped on a plane. So I'd booked a trip about 2 weeks before to Salt Lake City to do my level 2 Jim Jones. So I jumped on a plane and I was like watching how much cash I spent, and it turned out it was cheaper for me to fly via Hawaii. And so I flew to Salt Lake City via Hawaii from Melbourne. But yeah, it was actually really cool. And I remember getting off the plane in Hawaii and I was like, I've got to do something about being angry, because I'm either going to carry into the next part of my life this anger and frustration, or I'm going to build something new with the energy that the anger could actually produce. So I still remember I did this super super cheesy thing. I thought of this like symbolic kind of trek I could take. So I picked up this stick at the bottom of this mountain and I walked up the mountain, huffing and puffing, and I sat up there for a little while and I looked at the stick and I kind of assigned meaning to the stick of the last, 2 years, or if you looked at it, kind of last 12 years. And I thought, I'm going to throw this off the edge and I'm going to start afresh. And I did it, and I walked down and I felt exactly the same, but showed up to Jim Jones kind of 2 days later, and that's when I met you guys. And it was funny because I've never met like people like you ever. Like, I look at you like you're like all American, like football guys, and immediately I was like, I'm going to be friends with you too.
Everything your parents told you to stay away from.
And I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit intimidated. And then it's like, I still remember I spoke to you, Joe, first, and I was like, man, these guys are really nice, like, and really smart.
You can actually speak.
And it's super intelligent too. And I remember I made a plan to come to New York the next week and visit you. Yeah. And I came in, I still remember it was a Thursday. And I came in and I was just going to like hang out and see you. And I had to catch 2 buses, ended up like, don't know where, but following Google Maps, walking along the street. I found Varsity House and I walked in and I was like, what is this place? Like, how has this been built? And I realized in kind of that experience how like small fry I'd been playing, like how I thought that the growth that I could experience in my life was to own my own space and work myself into the ground. And I walked into Varsity House and I was like, you have not been like setting big enough goals. Like I said to myself, I was like, now is the time that you do something bigger than what you've always imagined for yourself. And I still remember I said, yeah, I know, it's pretty cool. So I sat on the plane on the way home and I was like, oh my God, I'm going home and I have no job. And then I was like, it kind of shifted because that flight is really long. You get a long time to think. And I sat there and I thought, oh my God, you're going home to no job. You can create whatever it is that you can think of. And so that was an incredibly huge turning point in my life, that entire period. And so came back start of 2016, so end of 2015, start of 2016. And first thing I did was started a podcast. So decided I had a lot to say and didn't really care if anyone was listening or not. I just thought I'd chat, and if anyone was listening, they'd be listening. And kind of from there, it really kind of snowballed. And I'm going to use this term snowballed because I am in Minnesota right now, and I've never seen snow like this.
It's cold. Well, hold on there for a second, Jane. Let's just go back a little bit and touch on a couple points. And I'm taking a ton of notes here. So basically, you can sum it up by saying that me and Dan are responsible for your success over the last year.
Seriously, sometimes.
I know that it's on its way, but I haven't seen it yet. But my royalty check, where's my royalty check? Right.
Well, I definitely do think of you guys. You're kind of like angels to me, like the most jacked angels I could ever imagine.
I really appreciate that, Jane. It's nice to know that, on a side note, as friends, it's nice to know that we had a positive influence on each other, and that we're learning as much from you as you did from us. So that makes me feel really good about.
One thing I have to say too about that, Jane, is you might have been feeling, and I think a lot of people are in that boat where they feel gassed out by running the gym and running themselves into the ground, and you might be feeling that anger and angst and just feeling the anxiety of having to walk away from the gym. But just hearing you talk about it and knowing where you are now, that failure if you want to call it, and the pressure for you to realize what you really want to be doing has equaled the growth. And when you have personal growth, you'll have business development. And I think that you kind of embody exactly what that is. And I think for people that are listening that are kind of, unwilling to exit their comfort zone, I think you're a great story to them and a great motivator to them.
Yeah,
totally. And you've absolutely nailed it with what you've just said then.
So, you go back to so you're at your gym and you're training a ton, just like a lot of gym owners, and you're kind of stuck in the gym. And you guys, from you, I know you take everything head on. So I'm sure it was, 90% passion. I want to help people. I want to own a gym and stuff like that. And what was, you were burnt out, and you obviously you said that you were feeling like your own fitness had struggled a little bit, and you were puffy, as you like to say, probably from cortisol, lack of sleep and everything, just like kind of feeling like that. And when you left, what were you angry that did you feel like a failure? Did you feel like you had kind of let yourself down, or you'd wasted some time and things like that? And what were some of the things that you were thinking about there when you left?
Totally. Well, it was interesting because before I went into business, my family, my brother and sister are both lawyers, and they were like, don't do it. Like they're both like, don't take any risks. All these terrible things can happen. And I was like, I almost can't think of what happened without the context I have now. Like, I absolutely know it was not a mistake. But at that moment, I definitely thought, you've wasted 2 years. Like, what a waste. But now it's like, I look at it like it was the greatest learning experience in my life.
That was your master's degree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That was your crash course in business.
Experience.
Right.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do you think
I kind of chuckle to myself.
Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I kind of chuckled to myself about how little I knew about business then, and how, if I did it over now with what I know, with having failed and then having had to build something, by myself afterwards, I think it would have been such a different experience. But I am so glad that I didn't know better, because now I do.
Yeah, that's. I mean, so I was just going to ask you: do you think you'd ever go back to the gym now, knowing that? Did you think you'd ever want to open up your own place again, and kind of knowing what you know now about business and structure, and hopefully some of the things you've picked up from us, just creating a real plan, a real structure, a real business model, and then kind of taking it, back to that. Do you think that that's something that you would still be interested in?
Well, it's really interesting because I said for a good 12 months, I will never own a gym again. And I've definitely thought for the last 3 or 4 months that I absolutely would because I love it. Like, I love the interaction with people and seeing that and having like a home base. And I don't have that anymore. But I do really, and it would also be like a test because it would kind of be like, well, what have you actually learned? And I think that something that I've gotten really good at over the last 2 years is asking for help and admitting I don't know everything. And I think I was absolutely in a pattern when I owned the gym of thinking, well, I'm the expert. You're all coming to me. I better know everything.
Yeah.
And so I think that would probably be the biggest difference is that I wouldn't be afraid to seek external help to make it work. Whereas I think I was a little bit too proud at that time.
Right. All coaches need coaches. That's one of the biggest things that we talk about with Business of Strength, in that, we have our year ends coming up for all of our staff members, and for Joe and I, we did our accountability charts, and one of the last things on it is talking about continuing education for Joe and I, and identifying weaknesses and where externally we're going to go to rectify those weaknesses, and where we're going to spend money. And, a huge part of our budget here at Varsity House is on that continuing education, because I think everybody kind of falls into that sometimes where you're almost afraid to admit that you aren't good at something because like you said, you're supposed to know.
Yeah,
I mean, business owners are pushed in a corner where it's like, well, you're a business owner or you're the manager. You're supposed to have all the answers. And sometimes you just go home and you're driving home. It's like, holy shit, do I know what I'm doing here? Like, is this going to work? And then you just kind of, it's a wish and a prayer.
Well, I mean, like a lot of fitness professionals, you spend so much time and energy studying the X's and O's of strength and conditioning, and no time studying the X's and O's of business. And I think that's why so many gyms fail. It's almost 50%. So for every gym that opens, for every 2 gyms that opens, one of them closes, and that's an industry-wide trend that obviously we're hoping to help out. So going forward, you said something that made me think of something, because I've always been and I don't want to call myself a dreamer, like I've always had like pipe dreams and all, but I've always seen I grew up, and my story. I grew up poor. I grew up with a single mom. I didn't have a lot of friends who had money, so I never saw another side of life where people had like big money, big jobs, big dreams, and things like that. But I never saw myself staying in like my little town, in my crappy little house, and doing the things that I was always dreaming of myself of being like a baller, you know what I mean, and having like and doing something great. So I think that I was able to visualize myself into my current state, you know what I mean, and in a sense willed it out of thin air. And you said something about you were playing it too small. You had your eyes set on, hey, I'm just gonna run this tiny little gym and I'm gonna train people all day. And when you came here to Varsity House and going to Salt Lake City and just seeing what other people were doing, you realized you had set your goals too small. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that plays a role in you now? What are you doing now in terms of goal setting, and what are some of the big things that you'd like to accomplish, and what are some of the, if you were going to do your vision traction board, for 2018 and beyond, what's kind of the big ticket items? What do you see yourself doing? Where's the big picture? And what does Jane Erbacher, as a business look like, 5-10 years from now?
I love it. So it's funny because I definitely put myself in the dreamer category, but I definitely realized at that moment that I'd been dreaming about like a feeling rather than an actual thing. And I knew, I'll explain that a little bit better. So for my whole life, I've known that I was here to live a big life. And everyone always kind of laughed at me because I was the youngest child, but I was, I always wanted to change the world. I wanted to be someone who came in and they made the world better. And I still remember like my brothers and sister being like, yeah, whatever, Jane, you're going to do this. And I was like, nah, I'm here to do it. I'm here to live a big life and leave an impact. And I just didn't know what that looked like. And it was funny because that was a feeling rather than an actual thing. Like I didn't think I'm going to do it by doing this. It was just I'm going to feel when I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's when I stood there in my gym. I thought I was doing it. I thought all those people coming through were feeling it. And it's like now I realize that I can do that bigger and more and have it actually look like something. Right. So I'm not actually great at goal setting, and I guess I need some help with this. So, but I can't actually believe what I've done with this year because in February, I woke up one day, I was in Thailand at a wedding with my friend, and we'd been to a CrossFit gym, and rowing was in the workout, and I've been rowing, and these people came up to me and they're like, can you show us how to use this? And I'd run a few workshops. I'd run a workshop with you guys at Varsity House, and I've been doing a bunch at home, but I hadn't set a goal of, I'm gonna run 80 workshops in 2017 or anything like that. I just was kind of like letting it tumbleweed, like let it just kind of grow by itself. And anyway, they asked me, and I was like, you know what, this is like an actual thing. And so I remember I woke up in the morning and I looked over at my best friend, my oldest friend in the world, and I was like, Emma, I am taking Project Row on like a proper world tour. And I remember she laughed and she's like, great, you have fun, Janie. Like you just go and you just teach people to row. And she like laughed. And I was like, no, I'm actually going to do this. And so I kind of sat down and I wrote down all the gyms that I wanted to work with. And I wrote to them and I asked them and I basically put it out there. And so the goal this year, it wasn't a measurable like this many gyms, but it was pretty much as many as I can. And the cool thing about it is I've tripled the price. I've tripled how much I charge now in 12 months, which was a pretty scary thing because I think I definitely sit in the camp of fitness professionals that find it difficult to charge for anything.
We better get her in here again soon, but hopefully we get the BFF discount.
Yeah, Jane, I want everybody to know, I know we talked about this offline before we started filming here, but I was making a joke, and to all of our listeners, I want them to know that you've been to more U.S. states than you haven't, and you took the Project Ski, Project Row, not only to the United States and all over Australia, but you also were in Europe this year. So, talk a little bit about some of the gyms that you went to and how that idea in Thailand kind of manifested itself into legitimately a world tour and how you visualized it. And once you visualized it, you were able to turn it into a profit.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. I sat down with a pen and paper, I still remember in Thailand, and wrote all those gyms, and it just started getting bigger than me. And it wasn't just the US, even though I love America. And it's definitely a huge part of my American market, just like me, because I have an Australian accent. Mm-hmm. And instead of being upset about that and being like, recognize me as a rowing coach, I'm like, you know what? If that gets me in your door and you like that, I'm happy with that. But I wrote down European places and got super excited. I've got a few gyms in Singapore now on my list, which I've added. But yeah, this year has been absolutely crazy. I have been to more places in the US than I haven't been to now. And I really love the conversation I have with people. At the very end of my US tour, I had a gym in Iowa write to me, and they were like, do you think you could come? And I'm like, I've got one weekend left. I can come if that works. And they were like, yes. We can come. And I had to look at the map and go, where is Iowa? So I was like, I love Iowa now. I'm going to have to go back. But I've been all across the US. I'm super proud when I tell Americans all the places I've been in America, and I love it. New York and the East Coast is still my favorite. But I do have a very big soft spot for Colorado, for Boulder now. Whew. But I haven't actually been anywhere I didn't like.
That's awesome.
Oh, my God, it's amazing.
It is really nice.
Amazing. But
talk a little bit about what you've been doing out there, Jane.
Yeah, so in Colorado?
Yeah, what's going on? I see you rowing on top of mountains and
yeah, you guys are dragging skiers on the ice and stuff. Up ski slopes with no jackets on. I mean, what the hell is going on?
So So that was pretty hilarious. So I basically what we did was while I was in the US during August and September, I had the guy who runs Dark Horse Rowing, so Shane Farmer, write to me. And it was a very short email, and it was pretty much like, hey, Jane, I see what you're doing. Do you think we could connect via Skype? And I was like, oh, my God. My brain went straight to, oh, I'm really nervous. Like, because if you look at it kind of on the face of it, you'd probably say that we're competing. We're operating in a competing market. So I'm teaching rowing and skiing seminars, and I'm very clear that my market is regular gym goers. So the members of a regular gym, that's who I absolutely connect with. I'm not so much into the performance side of things. I'm into the experience side of things. Like, I really like to show people that their training is fun and have them really looking forward to using the ergs. And I kind of looked at Dark Horse Rowing and I was like, well, you're very directed at coaches, so surely we're not actually competing. And even if we are, it can only make us better. Anyway, so I jumped on a Skype call with Shane. About a month later, we figured out how to coordinate it. And we just connected straight away. We both really realized that we were teaching people that the rower was a tool. It was just like what we all think about training. It's a tool to be better at life. And he was absolutely like, I'm not all about rowing. And I was like, I'm not all about rowing as well. And we kind of left it at that. And we said, let's think of something, somehow we can collaborate in the future. And about a week later, he emailed me and he's like, I've got it. Let's collaborate on Project Ski. Let's create some sort of a course for coaches to be able to coach the ski erg better, because the ski erg absolutely mystifies most people. And I've spent a year studying it to the point where I now think that I'm an engineer. And I look at that machine mechanically, and which my dad's a mechanic, so he's very proud of me, even though I still cannot change water in my car. I somehow can look at a ski erg and understand how it works. Yeah. But so he was like, let's collaborate on it. And so we started to kind of throw dates around and figure out the best way to do it. And a lot of it was going to take a lot of filming. So the plan was in January for me to go over to San Diego and we'd film out of Invictus, the CrossFit gym there. Yeah. Anyway, then I got a message on Facebook from this guy who I'd never met. And I still remember it was 2 days after I'd flown back from Europe. And so kind of looking forward to chilling out at home for a little while and not going on any long haul flights. And anyway, this guy messages me on Facebook and he's like, hey, I'm from, the Alpine Training Center in Boulder, Colorado. We're running a fundraiser ski erg relay. I would absolutely love for you to come and you could surprise Connie, who's our friend from Jim Jones. Yep. She's the owner there. She's like, you could surprise her and you could jump in on my team. And I still remember reading the Facebook message maybe 3 times. And I laughed because I was like, I'm in Melbourne. Even for me, I think this is a little bit crazy. I'm pretty sure I can't justify flying to Colorado. Anyway, then he sweetened the deal a little bit. He's like, I've got points. I can pay for you from anywhere in the US. You can stay for a couple of days. I was like, okay, let's not even worry about the fact that I've got to get across the oceans from Melbourne. But anyway, made it happen. I called Shane. I was like, let's bring filming early, a month early, let's do it. And he's like, let's meet up in Boulder. And awesome. So it just took on a life of its own. We did the relay. We didn't win, which I felt was a really poor business move. I feel like I know I needed you guys there.
Man, yeah, next time I didn't see the bat signal. You should have called up the A team. Let me tell you.
I totally should have. I'm going to blame the altitude.
All right. Yeah. So you met up with this crew, and now you've taken. We'll talk a little bit more about Project Ski and Project Row and what your intention was and what obviously my experience with it was. But now you're taking it to another level and actually creating an offshoot of that specifically for coaches, so that you can, as a coach, take a course. And learn how to break down the mechanics and workings of skiing. And are you doing the row as well, Jane? Or are you just specifically starting with the ski version of this?
Just specifically starting with the ski version. Awesome. Shane's already done a row version, and so it's kind of really become my niche, the ski part. But I mean, I'm not opposed to it moving forward. I do like the row as well.
Yeah. Jane, is it a paid video? Is it a paid course? How can a coach connect with that in 2018?
Yeah, well, it's something I really realized is it's quite limited how many people that I can interact with the way that I run workshops. So it was really great when Shane said this, because basically in April it's going to be released. Awesome. And it's a paid course. So you can be anywhere in the world. It's online, and it's every single video. Like, there's probably going to be about 20 different videos, quite short, and then all different like workshop kind of activities that you can do. So it's an entire course. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It is very cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. It's great to see. It's great to see. Where, necessity breeds innovation. Where the skier didn't exist a few years ago, and the creation of this. You guys are a little bit younger than me, so you might not remember the old like NordiTrack machines from back in the day. They were like this old fitness machine. It was like an old ski machine, and it looked like an old torture machine. And but it's very similar. How it worked is very similar to the current day, concept to ski erg. And it's amazing how the machine itself has really exploded. And now I don't think there's a CrossFit gym in the country that doesn't have at least one of them. You know what I mean? They all have them. So it's really blown up. And I'm sure you see it too by going to these gyms. When I see people using it, I see a lot of horrible technique, and you see people that hurt themselves doing it. So there's definitely a need. So this invention, if you will, was created and has exploded onto the market. And the need was to be able to educate people, and you're really feeling a need. So if there's, a business lesson here to be learned, it's that, number one is find the need. What do people need, and sell it to them, and answer the questions. So people out there look at a skier and like, what the hell is that, and how do I use it? And you have, created an entire market around that. So that's fantastic.
So, Jane, my segue question for you is about your program coming out with Shane in April. So obviously you guys are going to have that online course, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you hosted 18 weekend workshops in 2017, correct?
More than that. I actually haven't kept count. I think I'm up to about 40 something this year.
Oh my God.
Goodness.
Yeah.
It's 18 locations. I guess I'm wrong.
That's more than that. I'm like, I'll have to write it down for you guys. I've lost count, but I have a feeling Jake, my boyfriend, will have counted simply because he's like the systems person, but also because he's getting kind of, and he's kind of getting sick of me being away. So he's really kept track of it.
Well, let's talk. I want to talk about that for a second too, Jane. You've traveled all over the place, and now you've created this, in a sense, another monster. You know what I mean? Awesome. You're passionate. It's something totally great. But you've traveled a ton. And are you going to reel that in a little bit in 2018 and kind of like cut down some of the traveling and cut down some of the live events and go more online and take things more to like an online format?
Yeah, that was my question for you, Jane. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Okay. Well, it's really interesting because I think what you said before about I recognized a need and I created a product to solve that problem. Basically, I recognized what the problem was. People couldn't use the ski erg. And I still remember you standing next to me, Joe, and trying to coach me through my 2K. Yeah. And all I was thinking was, I really don't like this machine because I can't do it. And I was really annoyed. And I remember I went into it thinking I'm going to jump this whole 2K. And then at 150 meters, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't jump the 2K. Anyway, and I still remember thinking, I don't know how to do this. And I walked away and I thought, if I don't know how to do it, and I'm a coach as someone who like kind of is familiar with the ski erg, other people don't know. So that's how Project Ski was actually born. So I did exactly that. I went where the need was rather than where my expertise was, and I built the expertise based around the need. And it wasn't that I wasn't interested or passionate about it. I mean, it's movement, and I'm passionate about movement, and it's betterment, and I'm passionate about betterment. But I very much look at myself as extremely responsive, and I'm at a stage in my life where I don't really have many responsibilities. I don't have a little kid I'm leaving behind or anything like that, and hopefully Jake will come with me on more of these trips because he's probably with me right now, and he's like, I'm not appreciating where this is going. But I very much look at myself in a very great position right now where I can pick up and go wherever I need to. And I don't want to be traveling the way that I'm traveling right now, but if that's where my business is going, and then I'm going to do it and I'm going to make it work. And if I have to increase how much I charge for things to cover more of kind of the instability that it's creating in my life, then I have to. But I have absolutely no problem in going to where it's needed most.
Can you talk to me a little bit about, the community? So, obviously, you're like me. I love teaching people. I was born to be a coach, or an educator, and I do both. So it's like I'm teaching at school, I'm teaching at the gym, I'm coaching up my team, I'm coaching up athletes all the time, and I know you love that aspect of what you do and the ability to kind of empower people through knowledge. Talk a little bit about some of the gym communities and the people, and the vibe of Project Row and what you saw, people getting out of it in the communities and how that helped. And, you've gone from so many places and so many countries and different types of people, different types of gyms, different types of communities and stuff. And just kind of sum that up as to how that really impacted you as a person and it makes you feel as a coach, educator, mentor.
Totally. I am obsessed with community, and I think that one of the most important things that you can do in determining your own success is being in control of who you surround yourself with. And I absolutely recognized how important that was when I left a toxic business relationship, because I realized that who I'd surrounded myself with at a business level were absolutely the kinds of people that hold you back. And what I've really noticed in this last year of going into so many different gyms and so many different communities is you can feel when you're in a space where that is sacred, that kind of community and building each other up is absolutely sacred. And there's been probably less than 5 that I've been into, and it's felt like synthetic. But the majority of spaces that I've gone into, the majority of places that recognize what I bring to them, get it. They've built up a community of support, of positive competition, of competition that breeds success rather than competition that steps all over each other. And I feel like that is one of the most exciting things ever, because the fact that there are so many places that are like that, where, the person who runs it believes so strongly in community and building people up, and all of that stuff makes me so excited. And I get to meet the coolest people in the world being in these kinds of gyms all the time. I actually do.
That's awesome. It really is nice feeling, I can only speak from my personal experience and being, when we go to other gyms and when we talk to people, I know Dan and I walk away with a really great, I feel uplifted. I feel like they've energized me. I feel like everywhere I go, I take something. I learned something. Everywhere. It could be anything. It could be even just it could just be even a banner up in the gym that's really cool. But or as much as something like a wholly different marketing system.
Always
something
intaking information. Something to reiterate what you said, Jane. That competition breeds success, absolutely. And some people could look at Varsity House, and we've had you here multiple times to do Project Ski and Project Row, and I think gym owners need to realize, too, that, yes, you're supposed to know how to set up a row or a ski rig. Obviously, these are things that we have. And yes, we can hit the quote-unquote standards, but both times I've taken the course and I've learned something new. And both times, like Joe said when he was giving the introduction, is that people feed off of a new voice. They feed off of the energy. So if that's making my community and our community better, then shit, that's coming back to me way more than I could ever pay you to be here, because the clients and the community, like we always say, appreciates it. And they appreciate the fact that we are able as a crew to go out and say, hey, you know what? We're going to bring in an expert in this field. Or, hey, you know what? We're talking about bringing somebody in for the kettlebells or whatever it may be. The community has to appreciate it, and it has to look like we're trying to level up our game. So speaking of leveling up the game, I want to know what your 1-year business plan looks like. What is the Vision Traction Organizer looking like for 2018?
Give me all the juice.
Oh, man. I know. Well, it's the absolute first thing that's happening is I am relaunching, rebranding, completely overhauling the podcast.
Awesome.
So I'm, so the new podcast is called the Peanut Butter Podcast. And I've kind of decided that the way that we consume or digest entertainment and media is in a binge kind of method these days. If you think of how well something like Netflix is doing, and people pretty much watch one TV show all the way through. They'll watch like a box set of that rather than watching episode by episode. And it's we haven't actually taken that up on a podcast methodology. So are you guys still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, we're listening.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. You're just so
okay.
quiet. So I really want to so the Peanut Butter Podcast is basically, I kind of am looking at it like a school project now. Like I'm targeting a topic. So, for example, what should I eat? And then I'm going to put together a series of, between 7 and 10 episodes
so
with people who...
We can binge listen.
You can binge.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Exactly.
I like that idea.
So it's like you can binge listen on what should I eat.
Yeah.
But so I want to kind of release it in that kind of way. So it's like they'll have a bunch of episodes released, and it's like they'll all be quite short, 20 to 40 minutes, and people can listen, and then they can make up their own mind about whatever it is. So I've got a bunch of topics that I'm super excited about, and I'm targeting, I want to speak to people who I'm obsessed with game changers who have disrupted or innovated the industry. So you're both getting another call up for the podcast.
We're in.
Nice. We're in.
Yeah. But I've really kind of looked at it with a bit of a smarter hat on. So I'm like, the podcast kind of just rolled into success rather than I didn't really create it. I think it just kind of happened, which was really good. But I want to really do this properly. And so, so I'm changing the way that it's going to be consumed. I'm also setting my sights pretty high. I even wrote on my kind of dream list of people that I want on there, kind of got really out of control. It went from Lance Armstrong to Richard Branson to Oprah. I was like, why would I settle for anybody other than the Queen? So I was like, I'm going to get Oprah on the podcast.
Nice.
So,
that would be serious.
That would be serious. Don't forget the little people when you get to the top.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, me and Dan are going to London in a couple of weeks, so I'll try and hook it up with the Queen. I'll talk to her and let you know if we can get her on the podcast or not. If you see me on the nightly news, Crazy Man tries to jump over the wall, Kensington Palace.
We're hoisting Trevor's gear over Buckingham Palace. Get up there.
Picture me and Dan on the front cover of the Times, breaking into the palace walls.
I love it. But I tell you what, everywhere I went in Europe, every one of those gyms, they're all going to your Business of Strength in January.
Yeah,
so
they
I
are.
had so many conversations about you guys.
I mean, we are truly blessed, and that is in no short part to your own support and helping us out along with that. So we would thank you a lot for that. I appreciate it. So what else? What else is on the list? For 28, so you got the podcast, you got the new coaching course. Do you have a whole list of live workshops set up as well?
Yes, I do, and it's funny because Jake helps me a lot with my business stuff. So my boyfriend Jake helps me a lot, and he thinks that we need to create Planet Jane because he thinks that that's where I've been this year. He keeps saying you just come back from Planet Jane, you're up there on Planet Jane, you need to come back to Earth. And then the other day he was like, let's actually create a lifestyle brand. And I was like, I'm not calling it Planet Jane. I wouldn't even.
It's where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm absolutely, one of the programs I run that I'm absolutely heart and soul connected to is what I call the Reset. And basically the Reset is, it's a 28-day mindset overhaul. And so I came up with one day while I went running what I've kind of termed in my own head and what I've been really test running on myself and a lot of other people is a 5-step process of change. And this is exactly what I run through in the Reset. So it's not like a body transformation or a weight loss challenge. It's it starts with awareness, then it's choice, intention, action, and perseverance. And what I really work on with people is that if they need something to change, and I use the analogy of Google Maps all the time, I'm like, if you want to get somewhere, if you've got a goal, if you've got somewhere you want to be, the first thing you've got to do is acknowledge where you actually are. So that's where awareness is, because a lot of us kind of set a goal, but you don't go, okay, well, where am I right now? I've got this much time, I've got these responsibilities, I've got these resources. We kind of just set a goal and don't really work backwards from that to where we actually are. So that's what that looks like. And I really want to turn the Reset into something that is it is normal and everywhere, because I see when I've done it with people what incredible changes they make. And it's not just because of me, it's that they make.
Everything starts with yourself. You know, one of the things that we preach the most, and we've mentioned it here even multiple times, is our vision traction organizer. And I really think that for most people, you can do a personal one. You could do one for your business. Like me and Adele, my wife, do one for our family. Me and Dan do ours. We make everybody in the team. And it really is just a way to sit and analyze yourself and what you're good at, what you're bad at, you know, where you need to go. What are some of the big goals? And I think people just don't spend enough time thinking about who they are, what they're good at, what they really want to do, and what's going to make them happy. And they just do, and they get stuck in kind of a rut. And then all of a sudden, you know, it might get to a point where, you know, if I'm speaking of you personally, like if you were running your gym still, but you were 10 years older and you were married with a family, you might not be able to get out of that situation at that point, you know, and now you're really trapped for real. And then you're, you know, and then that leads to, you know, real misery, and then it's divorce and separation from your kids, and, you know, a loss of, could be, you know, millions of dollars for failed partnerships and things like that. So I think people will save themselves a ton of headache in life in general by, you know, reaching out for help like yourself, and just really organizing their personality and their and who they are and what they're all about. And then if you can surround yourself with people that are kind of like aligned, all of a sudden you really start to see your life take off and your things start to really grow for you.
Totally. And you are so right. And you see it in the fitness industry all the time, the do attitude. Yeah. And it's like, because we know what hard work is. And we also know, it's really interesting because I often look at it like we are constantly asking people to get outside of their comfort zone as a coach. And yet we often don't know how to get out of it ourselves. And our comfort zone usually as coaches is in coaching. Yep. And it's not necessarily in the business side of things. And it's, you know, I was chatting with a friend a couple of months ago, and actually I was training in the gym. I was taking a class, and he was there as well. And this lady came in, and she wanted to buy a membership. And both of us were just working in the gym. We didn't even own the gym. And I remember I was like spotting somebody doing something pretty important. And so he went over and he's like, I just train people, yo. And he like laughed. And it's like, that's kind of become my catch cry now in my head of this is what trainers and coaches think. It's like the business side of things is really difficult for them. Yeah. And it's like, so instead of putting time and effort into it and figuring out exactly where they want their business to be and getting better at it, acknowledging that it's a weakness and everything that you just said, it's like they just keep doing the things that they're good at. And you're exactly right. Like, it's like, is that going to wind up in 10 years' time with a failed marriage and business because you're under so much stress?
Yeah, I think a lot of gym owners too, like Dan, I mean, me and you see this all the time. I mean, there's just gym owners, like a lot of people, put patches on things, you know what I mean? And they think that, oh, if I go to another training certification, or if I listen to another strength and conditioning podcast, that's going to fix my business. Like, oh, I'll just keep acquiring training knowledge. I went, you know, West Side Barbell, Jim Jones, Athletes Performance, you know, Cressy Performance. And these are all great things, but they're tools. And I don't care how great of a coach you are, none of those certifications and none of that knowledge has anything to do with, you know, finances, people management,
bring it back
things like
down
that.
To its simplest form here too, guys. It's like with say just a coach or a business owner that's been in business, let's call it 3 to 5 years. They're over that initial hump. They're no longer quote unquote rookies, and they want to make more money or they want to make a deeper impact, but they keep going to those training certifications, or they keep training people exactly the same way, and they keep doing their back-end processing exactly the same way. It comes down to like your sales pitch to a client. If a client's been training with you for 3 years and they're no longer making any more gains or obtaining any more results, well, it's time to set in some change for that person. It's time to reset the goals. It's time to bring them back to reality, in that, you know, here are some of the weaknesses. And it's the same thing with business owners. I mean, you know, you have to be comfortable to the change, and you have to, you know, set some new parameters and new habits and new guidelines to obtain that.
I mean, if a business owner came to us, and I know, I mean, me and you have spoken about this a bunch of times, Jane, but it's like if a business owner comes to me like a gym owner. And I said, well, what if you had somebody who wanted to bench press 300 pounds? Wouldn't you be able to write them a program? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'd put together a 10-week plan. We'd be doing, X, Y, and Z, tons of tricep work. We'd do an assessment. We'd do this. I'd get the nutrition right. And I said, well, what if I said, what if you want to make $1 million in your gym? Wouldn't you want to do the same thing? Wouldn't you work backwards and start to create some systems and a way to get to that point? And it just seems like such a foreign concept, but that's what I think both of us on both sides. Now with you kind of crossing over to the coaching realm and coaching the coaches is really just starting to change the game and try and help other coaches realize that you're not going to know everything, you can't know everything, and that there's other people there who've done a lot of the work for you, and we're there to help kind of fill in the dots. So
totally,
Jane, if you had one piece of advice to give to an aspiring strength entrepreneur, what would that be?
It would definitely be, I'm like one piece. Oh my God. Okay. So 2 things came to my mind and I'm going to take liberties. I'm going to say the first thing is don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think that it definitely helped my business so much to have the backing of you two, because when I ran my Project Row there in 2016, a lot of other gyms sat up and thought, well, those guys are at the top of the game and they are not afraid to ask for help. So it actually really helped my business to have that kind of, acknowledgement from both of you, because I do stand in front of a group in a Project Row setting, and the gym owner has to acknowledge that either they haven't been able to communicate what I'm communicating in the way that I'm communicating to their members, or that simply I do know more, and that's not a problem. And it's the same with both of you. Like, it's like, if a gym owner is great at running classes and they're great at building community and they're great with connecting with people and communicating with people, but they find it really difficult to run the business, then it's not a shame. Like, there's no shame in them asking for help with that. And it's exactly what you just said. We see gym owners and fitness professionals and fitness entrepreneurs continually adding tools to their kit, continually taking courses and, doing a kettlebell certification and Gym Jones and CrossFit, and all in the hope that that's going to help them run their business better. And it's like, what they actually need to do is sidetrack slightly and ask for help in the area that they're not good at. And because the only way you ever get better at anything, and we get this in a training realm, is putting time and effort into it. And so it's like, if you're constantly putting time and effort into the training side of things because you find the other stuff difficult or uncomfortable, then you're never going to get better at it. So I'd absolutely say ask for help. And that's like, it's such an important skill to have. And sometimes it does take a little bit of effort to swallow your pride, but nobody ever makes you feel like an idiot for not knowing what you don't know if you've already admitted that you don't know it. So I'd absolutely say ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And yeah, I wish I had asked for help when I owned my gym a little bit more. And but the other thing I just have to say is to trust yourself. Like, I think that I heard this guy speak last year at Lewis Howe's like Summit of Greatness thing, and his name's Matthew Hussey, and he's amazing. And he talks a lot about confidence and competence. And most of us sit more closely in one camp. So either we're more confident and we don't necessarily always have the competence, and then the other camp is competence and you don't necessarily have the confidence. And I see that more often. And I see that more people just keep making themselves more competent, but don't have the confidence in themselves to do it, or to take the risk, or to set the goal, or to follow through, or to fail. And it does take confidence to set a goal so big that you potentially could just fall flat on your face. And it's like, exactly, Dan, you said it ages ago in this podcast. You said to me that it's like, basically things not going right in my business was pretty much the best. Like, you didn't say it exactly like this, but it's pretty much the best thing that could have happened, because that's what I've learned from. And it's exactly that. Like, it's at the moment that my business ended and it failed in my head, I was completely attached to the fact that it was a complete failure, a complete regret, a complete waste of time. And I look at it now like money could not have bought that experience. Right. And it like, the amount that I learned, the people that I met, and the growth that occurred from having to, like, survive it, has made everything that I'm doing right now possible. And it's like, I don't look at anything that I'm saying yes to or creating right now as a potential failure. It's just all an opportunity to learn. So definitely ask for help. Like, don't be afraid of it, and definitely trust yourself, back yourself, because hopefully if things go so badly, you'll just laugh about it.
Yeah, don't be afraid to fail. Everything that's ever happened that was good was on the other side of failure. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You get kicked down, you get back up twice as hard. That's amazing, Jane.
Yeah.
I really can't thank you enough. This has been amazing. I have so many notes here. I could talk for another 10 hours, and I'm trying to wrap it up. And but tell people a little bit about how they can connect with you, and where can we find information about Jane and your Project Row, Project Ski, and how do we connect with
the new podcast
with you and the new podcast?
Yes. So the new podcast is the Peanut Butter Podcast, and that's coming out in January. And super excited about that. Chose the name because it's my favorite food, and also because you pretty much can't forget peanut butter. Yep. So I decided to go with something super like, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a Peanut Butter Podcast. So that will be released in January, but you can find everything out about me. I'm the best at updating my Instagram, so that's jane.erbacher. But you can also find out anything on my website, which is janeerbacher.com.
Okay,
so I tried
great.
to stay, because it's a bit confusing with all the different projects I run, so I'm trying to streamline everything into being my name now.
Well, I'll make sure for our listeners that we put a link to janeerbacher.com and your Instagram on the show notes for this podcast. And we just want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jane.
We love you, and we're huge supporters of everything that you do. And I highly recommend, if there are gym owners and strength entrepreneurs and coaches out there who just want to bring an absolute amazing coach, an amazing piece of sunshine into their gym to uplift their community and just give everybody a boost. I know our clients still speak about how much they enjoyed Project Row and Project Ski with Jane, and everybody. When Ryan was here, Ryan Abbott, who our other Aussie, who is just here and just left recently, everybody was asking me like, when is he coming back? When's Jane coming back? And the Aussie contingency that has really taken Varsity House by storm all started with you. So I can't thank you enough, Jane. Yeah. I'm so excited for 2018. I can't wait to see what you guys have going on, and I wish you the best of luck and safe travels when you get back home. And please keep in touch, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you both so much. I love you both so much, and I'm so excited that I got to do this.
Thank you so much.
The Business of Strength, powered by Varsity House Gym. Turn your passion into your profession and learn how to run a world-class business. Be sure to visit us at www.strengthentrepreneurs.com to learn more. And as always, at varsityhousegym.com. Become unstoppable.